You are now listening to the Here for the Truth podcast, hosted by Joel Rafidi and Yerasimos.
All right, guys, welcome back to Here for the Truth podcast. Another amazing episode for you today. We have David Sutcliffe in the house. He was a former lead actor on the TV series, highly acclaimed TV series, Gilmore Girls, and since has left Hollywood and discovered a true life, meaningful calling down the path of core energetics therapy, integrating wholeness, and helping others walk this path as well. This is an incredible conversation, an amazing hero's journey that David has, and we really think that you guys are going to get a lot out of this episode. Just before we dive into that, wherever you are, wherever you're listening, please hit that follow button, hit that like button. It would mean a lot to us. And also, you will continue to get episodes delivered to you weekly by doing so as well. Enjoy this episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Here for the Truth podcast. Today, we have the incredible David Sutcliffe in the house. He is a somatic practitioner, certified in core energetics, trained at the Radical Aliveness Institute of Southern California and the Institute of Core Energetics in New York City. He's been leading groups, workshops, and trainings for 12 years. In 2008, he directed and produced the documentary series Group, about a one-week Radical Aliveness retreats. In a former life, he was an actor best known for his role on the classic TV series Gilmore Girls. Born and raised in Canada, he currently lives in Austin, Texas. David, thanks for being here for the truth.
Happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you, man. Dude, one way we like to kick this one off here, especially with first-time guests, is we want to dive into your personal hero's journey. You can go back as far as you'd like, but we want to take a look at the major catalyzing, transformative moments in your life that I guess really alchemized you into where you are now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I have a typical story. You know, I got everything I wanted, realized I wasn't happy, had a crisis, didn't know what was going on, and then figured it out. So I was...
All right, guys, thanks for listening to the Here for the Truth podcast.
I mean, it's the same story everyone has. You know, we all have our own version of it. And mine was, I went to Hollywood, was an actor, was successful, had more success than I ever imagined. Television series and working in movies and running in circles, hanging out with famous people, bought a nice house, dating a movie star, the whole thing. I had it all. And was not happy for whatever reason, and didn't feel that I wanted to keep pursuing it. I just lost my mojo. And then my girlfriend dumped me, and it just kind of spun me out of control for whatever reason. It was the first time I'd ever been dumped. And that was, it just brought me down, and I'd never had that experience before. And I knew it wasn't really about being dumped. There were that triggered this cascade of feeling that I'd been holding back, I think, for a lifetime. And I'd been interested in therapy from the time I was in my mid-20s and did a lot of therapy. And but a friend sent me up to this. He said, you got to go to this workshop at the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California. And I went up there and just worked with this woman, Ann Bradney, for a week, and had a transformational experience. And that was it. I understood something about myself that I'd never understood before, and then became obsessed with that idea that we're controlled by our unconscious thoughts and feelings and emotions. And all these things happened to us in childhood, and they left a very powerful imprint on us. And I was also shocked by the intensity of the emotion that was inside me. So the work that I do, core energetics, somatic psychotherapy, it's very expressive. So it's not just sitting around talking. There's hitting, there's punching, there's kicking, there's psychodrama. It's intense. And I was shocked at the level of rage that was inside me. And when I expressed it all, where it took me into my pain, and I was shocked at how much pain I had and the longing that was there. I didn't know that I'd been that hurt in my childhood. My parents split when I was 6. My childhood was, it was fine. wasn't like my mother was abusive, but things happened, and it had a huge impact on me. And I guess once I understood that, I just wanted to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And that it's really just becomes my life's work. I mean, that's all I'm interested in, is going down, down, down inside and exploring what's there through many different modalities. Cornergetics, I've spent a lot of time with psychedelics and, walking the red road, the path of the Lakota. So this is what I do. This is what I'm into, psychospiritual work, and sharing what I've learned with the world. So that's basically my story.
Thank you for sharing the story. I mean, I definitely see some similarities. I mean, I moved to LA over 10 years ago after being in New York City for 10 years. I trained as an actor. I didn't get near the level of success that you did. I didn't put too much focus in it because I was really into personal development. But about a year into getting into LA, I went through a breakup, and it was the first time I was ever broken up with. And that was a major dark night of the soul for me. And, I'd been into like personal development work and psychology for a long time, but this was a whole nother level of understanding. And that actually led me to a mentor shortly after who was trained in traditional Chinese medicine and a lot of different bodywork modalities, really deep bodywork modalities. And it was where I met my wife at a training, and the rest is history. I share the same kind of desire to continue to explore the depths of who I am and to support people on that path as well. So thanks for sharing all that. And it definitely deeply resonates.
That's amazing. That's a great story too.
Mm.
David, what drew you into acting initially?
Yeah.
Well, I was an athlete, and in high school, I was very good at reading out loud in class. And so the drama teachers would say, you should audition for the school play. We'd love to have you. And I was a jock. So I was like, I can't. I got basketball practice. But when I got to university, I went to University of Toronto. I was playing basketball there, and I got injured. And I was living with a guy who was a playwright. He won some playwriting contest, and he was going to produce this play. And now I suddenly had all of this time. So I said, hey, is there a way that I can help out, like do the lights or something? And he said, why don't you audition? And I was like, okay. And I'd had that affirmation previously that perhaps I had a talent for this. And he gave me a little part, and that was it. To me, it was just like sports. You practice, you rehearse, and then there's the game, and then there's the performance. So the muscle was there, and it was exhilarating. It was exciting. And I just kept following it. I didn't grow up dreaming about being an actor. It wasn't until I got to university that I started thinking about it. And even then it was, can I really do this? Is this something that I could do, that people do? It didn't seem real, but I kept getting little parts here and there, and people reflecting back to me that I had some talent. So it was just one step at a time. But I loved it. The performance element of it, the meeting interesting people, that whole, that world is just, it's very dynamic and wild. And it was so different than anything that I'd experienced before. And of course, I'm a young man, and it's lots of pretty girls who are actresses. And so that was a big part of it. But then I got to LA, and it was great when I first got there, but it's a business. And I was into it for a while, but I remember being on the Warner Brothers lot, working on Gilmore Girls, and having this distinct feeling that I was working at a factory, that this studio was just a factory that was producing product, and I was just one person, a well-paid person, and it gave me a lot of social status, but nevertheless, I was still working as at a factory, and I was just like on the assembly line. It just happened to be an actor, and that shifted something inside me. It suddenly didn't feel so romantic and exciting. And I'm working for a corporation,
Working a machine,
I'm working for the man,
Yeah.
And all of that reality started to sink in, and just wasn't in line with I think, deep part of my character, which is, I want to be sovereign, I want to be free, I want to work for myself. I don't want to be tied down to anything. So, but it was a lot of fun while it lasted.
Mm-hmm. Was there obviously you're into core energetics now and body psychotherapy and accessing deeper parts of yourself. Was any of that kind of psychological growth offered through the container of acting as well? Because I know often Yerasimos speaks about, the psychology of acting and having to access different parts of ourselves to perform in certain ways. What was your experience in that regard?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of acting training feels like therapy.
Mm-hmm.
The Meisner work that I did when I got to LA, there was a great class in LA, Sandy Marshall. It was a Meisner class, which is basically teaching you presence. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot from that class and went to some really deep places. It was very therapeutic, very cathartic. You're exposed, you're vulnerable, you're out there for everybody to see. And learning to tolerate that, I think, is a very, very powerful thing. We all want that. That's why we love actors. We revere them, because there is a courage that it takes to put yourself out there like that and let yourself be seen in your raw emotions. And that the realer and rawer you can be, the more compelling you're going to be. So that's the game. How real can I get? How authentic can I be? And so you end up coming up against the limits of yourself in that process. You learn about yourself. You learn where you're stuck. You learn where you're not emotionally free. So that's why a lot of actors go to therapy, because you need to be not just emotionally expressive, but understand and connected to all the aspects of you, the light, the dark, all of it. And that's not an easy thing to do. So, but they're very, very correlated from my experience. And I learned a lot about myself through acting.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that's what I fell in love with ultimately. And I came to a realization that I was like, I really care about the personal development element of it more so than the actual, the business and going through the motions and driving around town all day. Like, I loved getting to know myself. My first mentor in New York City he had psychologists on his staff, and I was like, and they did parts work, and I was like, whoa, this is incredible. Like, there's more to me than just the personality that was kind of like structured because of, approved behaviors or disproved behaviors growing up in a family and a culture and society. And so I loved diving into the darkness. I loved tapping into these parts of me and then using them to tell stories. But then the byproduct was I just felt more whole and integrated, and it felt more dynamic and fun. But I think over time I realized I wanted to do more of that, because I also had a little bit of that, like you said, oh yeah, there's attractive girls, and maybe I might get a little well known and make some money and then have a platform and then help people. And then one day I woke up and I went, well, I could just help people, or I could just do the things that I'm interested in and support people, as opposed to, no, I have to make the money and I have to be on the television show and I have to be famous, and then I can share my gifts with the world. It was this weird thing that was going on in me, and I just had this kind of light bulb moment. I mean, there's other things involved as well, but I love the personal development aspect of it. To use pieces of you to tell stories was something I really enjoyed, but it just didn't, it just wasn't the ultimate for me personally.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience. When I discovered core energetics and particularly the Radical Aliveness model that Ann Bradney teaches, who became my teacher, I was like, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I was looking for through the acting. It was full expression and free to explore, and so that's ultimately why I made that transition, just because it was more alive for me.
Can you talk a little bit about Radical Aliveness?
Yeah, well, so Ann Bradney was a teacher at the Core Energetics Institute in New York, and it was core is a somatic psychotherapy, but it was traditionally done one-on-one, or if you did it in groups, you would do one person at a time. And what she started to find is that one person would be working, but another person would be activated. And instead of waiting for that person's turn, she'd like invite them up. And suddenly it turned into this whole group process where nobody was holding back anything. And which obviously takes you into chaos. But what she discovered is that if you let everybody go into chaos, new things emerge. The group intelligence wakes up, and if everybody follows their impulse, something magical will happen. And I think intuitively we know that, and I think that's actually how life works. There is some kind of collective consciousness that's guiding everything, and the more we feed into that collective consciousness, the more wisdom or intelligence can emerge. And so she just started teaching that, and the invitation again was to don't hold back, which is an amazing invitation. You come into a room, and all you're thinking about is like, what do I hold back? Where am I holding back? Why am I holding back? What would happen if I didn't hold back? What does it look? What does that even look like? What does that mean? And but you would just take risk after risk after risk. And I think most of us all of us hold back, and it's painful to hold back. We hold back because we're afraid. We hold back because we learned that those aspects of ourselves were not welcome, or they weren't safe to feel or express them. And so this was a place where we could just let it all go, including all the darkness, right? It wasn't all love and light. It was like you could bring out the depth of your darkness into the room, your cruelty, your fuck you, whatever it was. And it could be held. And I loved it because I was a good boy. And so all of a sudden I had this permission to just not be nice. And then to see that my not being nice somehow would serve the room, like it would provoke something in somebody else, and it would take them to their pain, and then that would lead over here to something somebody else was doing, and it just became this pattern that would unfold in magical ways. And if you could just stay in it and follow it, trust it, stay present with it, it would always resolve itself. And into something unexpected and beautiful, which is really what art is. That's if you're playing a scene, or you're writing a song, or you're writing a script, you have an idea of what it is, but you want to be surprised along the way. It should surprise you. Great art, because you're tapping into the unconscious, and so something wants to pour out of you, but you have to give yourself permission to let go of the structure, to enter into the chaos, follow that flow, and see where it takes you. And I felt like that work, the Radical Aliveness, was practice for that. And I love it. I just fell in love with it. And it was endless, right? Like it was endlessly creative. And each group was different. Each group you could explore whatever it is you wanted, and new and interesting things would unfold every time.
It takes courage to give yourself permission to enter the chaos, though. That first step.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and learning to tolerate chaos was, I think, one of the great lessons from that school, because most of us want to avoid chaos. I mean, control is the enemy of creativity. It's really the control of life. And there is no change without chaos. You have to go into it. You have to go into the unknown. And it's not truly chaos. It's just, you might call it a reordering, right? But things you need to lose control, but there is a cohesion, there is an intelligence in there if you can find it, and it will bring itself back to unity. And the irony is, I do a lot of work with the Lakota people, Native Americans, and Sweat Lodge and Sundance and Vision Quest, and they have their own version of that. There's a lot of chaos that they work with, and it doesn't really make any sense. Like, there's a lot of things that are happening that feel illogical. But at the end of these ceremonies, it kind of all comes together and somehow makes sense. And I don't know. I think that's what life is. And I think these in some way are models for life, practice for that, practice learning to tolerate and exist in and stay present with the chaos, the madness, the irrationality, the rage, the pain, all of the things that we experience in life that we want it to be something other than what it is. Generally, we want to control it.
Yeah.
We're searching for some kind of utopia and believing that we can get there. And I think that's wrong. I think life is it's beautiful, but it's fucking madness.
Yeah.
And can I hold that? Can I hold all of that? And so for me, Radical Aliveness is really a practice of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you notice is the difference between one-on-one work and group work?
I think group work's more powerful because all your people are in the group, meaning your mother's in the group, your father's in the group, you know, the girl who dumped you is in the group, your brother who was a bully is there. Like they're obviously not literally there, but they're there as symbols, and they begin to emerge. So if you're in a group, you're going to ultimately get triggered by people, and those triggers are really they're pathways into deeper aspects of ourself. And so when you can explore those directly, it's much more alive, because most of our problems are relational. We got hurt in relationship with our parents generally, and we're going to heal through a relationship. And so groups really give you that opportunity. Now, in one-on-one therapy, there's also a relationship happening, but as a facilitator, from my point of view, it's much more interesting for me to be able to step back and hold the container while I let the group participants sort of have it out. You know, I can stay a little bit more neutral, and so I find it more dynamic, more alive. I think there's a lot of value to one-on-one, and I do work with people one-on-one. You know, and sometimes people need to work slower. Things need to be slowed down for them, because groups can move quickly, and so if they're not right for everybody, but the opportunities that exist in a group, I think once I discovered groups, that was the end of one-on-one therapy for me. I was like, no, I just want to be at groups all the time.
Yeah, it's a unique constellation of energies, you know, that are so. It's like every group you're in, like you said earlier, it's never going to happen again. Like you're never going to be in that exact group with that constellation of human souls and beings and personalities. And I think that's something that makes it so sacred too. Like even putting your attention on that, like this collection, this gathering of people will never happen again in this way. And I try to kind of apply that to even any group I'm in or any situation. Like it's very unique and it's special. And I think in a more group therapeutics setting, being witnessed in your healing and your alchemizing and transformation is extremely, extremely powerful. To be held to that degree is something that I think can like just I don't want to say supercharge, but really advance a healing process within you. Sometimes, maybe not all the time. But.
Yeah, no, I agree. Being witness is a big part of it. Also seeing yourself in other people. So not just your triggers, but somebody will reveal some aspect of their self, and it'll evoke something in you. It'll make you realize something about yourself. So, but yeah, the being witnessed is I think one of the most powerful things, you know, because we hide a lot, we hold back a lot, we have shame. And there's aspects of ourselves that we do not want to be seen. And watching somebody in real time have an experience of letting themselves be seen in a way that they never have before, you can see the healing right in front of you. You can see their whole orientation to themselves and to life changed because they had an image. Obviously, they're hiding it for a reason. If I show this aspect of myself, something bad is going to happen. I'm going to lose connection. I'm going to be hated. I'm going to be judged. But inevitably, they have the opposite experience because, of course, the more willing we are to be vulnerable and reveal our true selves, whatever that may be, the more connection we bring to ourselves, because authenticity and vulnerability is incredibly compelling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are the most powerful elements of cinema too. You know, that moment when there's like, it's almost like being in the center between vulnerability and something else, where there's like the highlights of cinema, where you're holding almost, you're in that tension of opposites, but there's vulnerability coming through. And those are like, oh man, those moments where you're just like, ugh, you know? But yeah, and to be able to reveal yourself and then not have the things that probably happened when you were a kid happen, whether it's getting slapped across the face or yelled at because you expressed yourself or you honored an impulse, and then here you are doing it, and then people are there holding space for you. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to witness for sure.
Yeah, beautiful.
I think it was Jung that said, in all chaos there is cosmos, in all disorder there is a secret order. And this chaos that we're talking about, like, to me, that's what the authentic path is in life. And that's a theme we often discuss on this podcast. But like, when you're truly living authentically and like living through your own inner impulses and your own intuition and navigating life through your own inner compass, not the outsourced conditioned compass, life, is not pre-paved for you. Each step is brand new. It's very hard to predict the way things are going to unfold, as opposed to, what I would call the inauthentic path, where we kind of have a brief idea of the way life's going to unfold in terms of the highways of life. We go to school, we go to college, we get the job, we get the retirement, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's this relationship between chaos and authenticity, but within that chaos, in trusting it, there's actually a secret, beautiful order that exists for those who dare to actually walk that path.
I think that's right. And that's what I discovered in Radical Aliveness, and what I've discovered in working with the Lakota people. It's hard to name it, like put your finger on it, but it's a feeling. And there is a thread in there, and you can find it. Like, I mean, usually when we lose control, or I'm out of control, or I'm struggling with something and feeling down, whatever it is, if I get centered and grounded, like, I can find the thread. And usually it's in that moment, life is asking something of me that is scary for me, or there's something there that I don't want to face or feel. And so it's always an opportunity for growth. And then maybe that is the thread. Maybe that is where the gold is, so to speak.
Yeah. It's like, there's always more potential on the other side of our wanting to control. You know? There's always an uncomfortable leap that's there waiting for us.
And I think we're coming out of something. I mean, the age of rationality and really science and this kind of masculine perspective on the world, which is great, but I think something has been lost, and maybe that's what I've been in search of: the magical, the mysterious, the intuitive, God. There's something else happening, that's some intelligence at play that is guiding all of this. And if I can tune into that, surrender to that, let go of control, trust what it is, it's going to lead me to magical places. I don't know where, from moment to moment, day to day, but if I can just let go and trust that that's going to be an amazing adventure, as opposed to, planning out my life, 5-10 year plan, which is also fine. But I've chosen to live my life, for better, for worse, in a different way. I remember the moment when I decided I was going to surrender to my intuition, for better or for worse. And I've lived my life that way as best I can ever since.
Yeah. Well, I mean, both are built into nature, right? Like the chaos and the order, the masculine and the feminine, and you're right. Maybe we've just been a little bit out of balance, and it's time to kind of invite the mythic back into our lives.
I think so. I think that's why you're seeing a lot of people like doing what you guys are doing and getting into self-development and going to ayahuasca ceremonies or going to sweat lodges or meditating, whatever it may be, there is some yearning for meeting life in a different way, to explore something deeper, and to know that there's gifts in there. There's intelligence in there. There's wisdom, and that we can trust. That it's not to not be a slave to the mind, really.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting when I consider that even on another level, like those two parts, like the order and the disorder, actually is rational.
Right.
You can consider it from the macro perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. It's exactly that. With the Lakota, it's so interesting. I've been about 6-7 years now. They developed what I would say is a technology. Like the Sweat Lodge is a technology. Vision Quest is a technology. Like if you do all these things in this way, you're going to have this experience, and that experience is going to give you a kind of wisdom and intelligence. And it's not the wisdom and intelligence you're going to get from going to Harvard and studying STEM, but it's something else. And the Buddhists have this too. It's like if you do all these meditations in this particular way over time, you're going to have these different Satori experiences. But there are actual technologies that can lead you to this deeper wisdom. And so I guess what I'm saying is that is the merging of the masculine and the feminine, right? The technology is essentially the masculine, the order, the structure that's bringing you into contact with this mysteriousness, this intelligence, God, however you want to think about it.
Yeah. What are the most common ways in which you think people hold back?
Well, what people hold back the most is their love. I mean, that's at the core of everything. And there's layers on top of that. But if you think of a time in your life where you felt, wide open, just in love with everything, in love with the world, I think it's the most powerful place that we can be in, where your heart is just wide open and you're just sort of giving of yourself. It's also extraordinarily vulnerable. And most of us have been hurt in that place. We're defended against having our heart wide open. We're actually told that it's not safe. And certainly I think it's important to protect ourselves in conscious ways against getting hurt. But I think that's what I've realized. Like, what do people hold back? They hold back their power. They hold back their greatness. They hold back their gifts. They hold back their love. We think that it's their shadow. We hold back the part of us that can be mean or cruel. We don't want people to see that, judgmental, violent, whatever it may be, or the part of us that longs for power. All of the sins. We don't want the world to see that. But in my experience, once you unravel that, and it takes you to the pain that's underneath it, then what comes out is this higher self aspect of you. And there's a great pathwork lecture. And pathwork is it's a series of channeled lectures that informs core energetics. It's sort of the psycho-spiritual foundation of the work. And there's a lecture called Shame of the Higher Self, and which I think is a beautiful concept, right? That our greatest shame is not about our darkness. It's really about our light. That is the most vulnerable thing, and that happens in my workshops. I mean, you ask somebody to confess their sins, so to speak, and they'll do that. They'll go into their shadow. They'll talk about the mistakes they've made, or the ways that they've hurt other people or themselves, the way they've been addicted to certain things, acted out. They'll go there, but ask them to talk about their gifts, or how powerful they are, or what they want to give in life, and that is a lot edgier for people.
Do you think they're more ashamed of not living up to their potential than anything else?
I think there's that, but I think that children, if they're wide open.
Yeah.
They're just wide open, and they want to love. I mean, children just want to love, and they want to give love. They want to receive love. And there's a purity and an innocence to that. And I think it's very hard for parents and the society to actually tolerate that. It's almost overwhelming to them. So I think, it's not necessarily in a cruel way, but unconsciously we shut them down.
Mm-hmm.
Like we encourage them to close off. Like it's not safe to be that open. And so the message I think a lot of us got as children was like, don't be vulnerable, don't be wide open. And that your love you have to protect it. Like you have to protect your heart. It's not okay to just like be open and loving. And obviously that message isn't coming directly, but it's coming sort of indirectly through the parents' inability to be with, receive the child's love. And I think so conclusions are drawn that it's essentially not safe.
Yeah. Do you think it's because the parents don't feel safe to be with their own love?
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's just passed down.
Yeah.
Do you think also too, you mentioned the shadow before and the dark elements, but would you include in the shadow our potential that we haven't lived yet, that we haven't developed? And I guess in my mind, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, it's about choice ultimately, because I don't think it's safe to be 100% vulnerable all the time with all people, like to be a children are so vulnerable. Yes, they have some protection from parents.
For sure.
But like, it's like, hey, listen, my intuition is saying, hey, I can open up right now and I have the capability to do that. Yeah. Or, hey, with this person, maybe I'm going to keep some things to the vest and other parts that might be present. You know what I mean?
Well, when we're doing it consciously, there's no problem. It's when it's unconscious, right? And I think that's what happens for children. It's like they get a lot of mixed messages, and they're modeling their parents' behavior. So if you have a parent that's completely closed off, the child is going to learn that that's how they need to behave. So I agree. We need to protect ourselves. We need to have boundaries. I don't think people should, get online or open up to everybody all the time. I don't think that's a good idea, right? But we want to know that we're making a choice. And, I remember the story that I tell is, when I get into me and my lady, when we get into scraps, she's ready to make up usually before I am. Although that's changed a little bit. It takes me a day or two, or a couple hours at the very least. And so we get into bed and she wants to snuggle. And I'm always like, I need, just give me some time. I'm still cooling down. And at one of those moments, I felt like, this is what's going on for me. It's over. Why can't you reconnect? And so I closed my eyes and I felt into my body, and I got this very powerful image of a dragon over my heart. And it was protecting my heart. And I thought, okay, yeah, well, when did this start? I wonder. When did this dragon appear in my heart? And then I got into this dialogue with the dragon. I said, okay, how do I convince this dragon that it's safe to let down, that he no longer needs to be on guard? That's a difficult conversation to have, because that's the dragon's whole job. Mm-hmm. Its whole identity is wrapped up in protecting my heart. And so obviously the dragon is representing some aspect of me. And it was hard for me to let that go, because I was so identified with it, and because it felt good. It feels good to protect, right? It feels good to be ferocious. It feels good to say, stay the fuck away from me. It feels good to say no. There's a kind of empowerment to it, right? And that's the decision I think most children make in a time when they felt helpless and vulnerable. The way to regain some kind of power and authority was to say no. So if you don't see my heart, okay, fine, then I'm never going to fucking open my heart. I'm never going to show my heart. I'm going to keep my heart protected. Well, at least that gives me some sense of control back. And I realized that this is what I was doing with my lady. And I thought, okay, what I need to do here with this dragon to convince it to stand down, I need to give it a new job. I need to direct that energy into something creative and productive. I'm an adult man. I'm not a 4-year-old child. I don't need protecting that way. And so let's use this energy, which was a lot of fucking energy. I mean, dragon, that's a powerful beast, right? Like, can I use this energy inside me to create, to build? And I literally was in dialogue with myself, and I could see the dragon start to get excited about that. And so, that's just a metaphor for, I think, what's going on inside a lot of us in different ways.
Now, a short break from the episode.
A brief interruption to let you know about our amazing membership community, Friends of the Truth. This is where all our podcast listeners converge to gain a deeper connection with us, with each other, and also get access to amazing benefits, including 6 live calls a month, a community call, a personalized members-only live podcast and Q&A, an astrology update, a nervous system tune-up, a German New Medicine study group, a live teaching. And what we think is the most valuable is the incredible topic-based Telegram community where people connect. A lot of laughs are shared, a lot of vulnerability, and a lot of amazing insights and knowledge can be gleaned from the value that is the community base that we have built, filled with amazing members. We'd love to have you in there. And plus, you get access to all previously recorded calls, which is over 50 hours now. So for only $39 a month, it's incredible value, or it's even lower on an annual plan. It's $29 a month. Come connect with us. You don't have to walk this path alone. There's a lot to be had by being within community, and we have created a huge monthly calendar for you to connect and interact with as well.
Back to the episode.
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing men in today's world?
Not to become cynical. I mean, there's so much anti-male sentiment out there that's insane and offensive and ridiculous, and it's real, and I think it's easy for men to become cynical and just check out, like, fuck it, fuck the world, fuck women. I think that's the most dangerous thing. I think it's hard to be a man. I think that part of what it means to be a man is that you're not always seen, you're not always recognized, you're not always appreciated. And I think when you don't feel seen or recognized or appreciated, it's easy to succumb to resentment and bitterness. So I think it's really just men have to stay the course in some sense. I think it's important for men to be around other men. I think we've lost that. I mean, look, the evolution that's happened over the last however many years was necessary. But like most things in life, it feels to me like there was an overcorrection. So I think it's just incumbent on men to take responsibility for themselves and for each other, and continue to I think there's the opportunity to do deeper work to understand themselves emotionally, that we're kind of out of survival mode in some sense as a species. I mean, for most of, the time human beings have been on the planet, we're just trying to get by. You're not thinking about how you feel. How you feel is fucking irrelevant. You don't have time to consider it. But now we have this time and space to go deeper inside ourselves. And so I think men, and a lot of men are doing that work. And I think it's really powerful. But I guess just to, like, hold the line, and stay on point, stay on mission. I personally feel like, men are the protectors, and they, even when they're not seen or recognized, or even when men are demonized, they have to keep showing up, because that's their responsibility as men. Yeah, and that's one answer I could give. I'm sure of many.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I know you got the chance to sit down with Andrew Tate in Romania for a very popular interview that I've seen going around. Why do you think Andrew Tate's message is so popular among young men?
I think he's giving voice to what a lot of men feel and haven't been able to say or articulate with the authority and power that he does. There's something that feels good to me about a guy saying, you know, it's on you. Get to fucking work. That's it. You got to be fit, take care of business, provide for your family, figure it out. Nobody's coming to save you. It feels true. There's like a deep truth in that. Now, is he on the extreme pole of that? Yes. But maybe that's what was necessary. Maybe we needed that kind of extreme figure to come in and point to something so that we could see it. So he's a complicated guy, certainly. And there's a lot of strong opinions about him. And, but I appreciate his message. I appreciate his vulnerability. He puts himself out there. He says what he thinks, you know, whether you like it or not, whether you feel like he's distorted in the things he's saying or not. He's not afraid to say that. And I think that takes courage. Mm-hmm. And I think people are also responding to that. He's also very funny and intelligent and entertaining. And I think he understands the game that we're all playing right now. And I think he's playing that game. But I think men are, and he presents himself in some way like a real life superhero. And in some way he is. I mean, he's a legitimate, you know, fighter, world champion, and lives a pretty interesting life. And I think men need role models. And I certainly didn't have very many good role models growing up. Well, my father wasn't around, but even when I look at the culture, like I guess I grew up with like Clint Eastwood was sort of the man when I was a kid. And maybe there were others, but now, I mean, in Hollywood, it's like George Clooney and Leonardo DiCaprio. These are man whores. And they're incredibly talented, but I don't know. Do they have a lot of, it's not like Cary Grant or Gary Cooper back in the day. Like these men were dignified and humble. And so, not that I'm saying, you know, Tate is, I guess, his own man whore, but I don't know. He stands for something that, and I think it's the energy. There's a resonance there. And I think he understands like the role of men in the culture and speaks to it. And I think it's important. It's an important message. I mean, in some way, he and Jordan Peterson are saying a lot of the same things. Get your shit together and get to work. You know, they obviously say it in different ways. And there's a lot more, you know, maybe Jordan Peterson has a lot more nuance in some way, but ultimately, I mean, those are the two guys who are getting the most attention in terms of, you know, men coming to them. And I see a lot of similarities in their message.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I would say like the message, get your shit together. Do you think they're getting their shit? Like, I mean, do you think Tate's getting his shit together in terms of grappling with his shadow?
Well, he sat down with me for 2.5 hours and he asked me to come. So there's, you know what I mean? True. Like he didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
He wanted it. So he's open.
Yep.
We'll see. It's more. I mean, everybody's on their own path. Everybody's on their own journey, and
sure,
everyone's got their own karma. Everyone's got work to do.
Oh yeah.
And so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I have a bias there. I of course I want to see him go deeper into his shadow and understand himself. And the argument I think that I made in the interview was because you'll be more effective. That will give you more power. Like the thing that you want is power. Well, this will give you a lot more power. Now, you know that you can't know that until you're there. because it doesn't really make sense to the mind. It wouldn't have made sense to me if somebody had said that to me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you only know it on the other side.
Yeah, and I think what you said before about the overcorrection, like sometimes you need someone really extreme to come in to highlight things, because people tend to sometimes yo-yo even in their personal development, where they just like they're a certain way and they're like, no, I need to just totally embody this other part.
Right.
And then very often then over time they come back to a little bit more of that healthy balance where they have access to both sides.
That's right.
And I think people like this showcase it in the collective, and then each individual then has to go on their journey. So these young kids that are drawn to them, that maybe have been overly feminized now become overly masculinized. And then through their own process, they go, okay, well, maybe I need to, be in the center a little bit and have more choice and a more expanded consciousness instead of just like, this yo-yo effect that happens.
Well, and I think there's a belief that everybody who follows Tate thinks exactly like him.
True.
And when I read the comments, the guys know what's going on. Yeah, there are some of those characters. Tate's the man. Yeah, this therapist is a dummy.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. But a lot of it, people get it. They get who he is. They see him and they take the stuff they like, and the rest of it, they're like, eh.
Well, I think that's so important, because we're living this world now, especially with social media, where there's so much of this like throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
Like you like this person that you're into, they say one thing you don't like, and you're like, you're canceled. I'm unfollowing you. I'm telling everybody I know that this person's a misogynist, a horrible human being. You shouldn't listen to anything they say. Like, people are just losing this fluidity within themselves and this expansion within themselves and trust within themselves and discernment to go, oh, wow, I really resonate with that. Like, I can apply that into my life. That other thing he said, hey, I'm not into that, but that's cool. Like, I like what he's doing in that one regard, like I just, it's really interesting. I'm observing it more and more online with things happening in the world too. There's like this lack of nuance.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure to conform to certain kinds of beliefs, and if you look at somebody like Tate, they put you in a camp. Like, I'm in a camp now. Like, that's it, that I can't get out of, and I'm fine with that. I mean, I made that choice. And I there are certain people that they don't like Tate, but they see the nuance. I mean, I have female clients, right, and they're just like, they fucking despise the guy, but they're like, they know me, and so they know that I'm up to something, and so maybe they actually give him a look. But there's certain people that, whether it's Trump or Tate or whoever, or whatever side of this conflict you're on, like, you're done, you're out, you're. And I got to the point where I'm like, I don't care. Like, if that's how you think, I don't need you in my life. I can't cater to that. I'm going to stop trying to convince people of anything. And it goes back to what it is to be a man. It's like, I'm going to hold on to myself, not concern myself whether I'm seen or understood or appreciated or even demonized. Like, okay, you want to demonize me? That's fine. And lots of people demonize me. And it was painful at first, but now I'm like, it's just your own projection. It's your own misunderstanding. And, I've learned to let it just kind of roll off my back.
Yeah, man, I personally had no idea you would have received that level of backlash simply from that.
It was more my support of Trump. I voted for Trump twice. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So by the time I got to Tate, people were already like, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Fuck that dude.
They put you in a basket in their mind.
People couldn't understand. I mean, I tried to explain to people. I was just like, I want the bull in the china shop. That's it. That's why I want this guy to fuck everything up. And because this system is obviously corrupt. Yeah. And it wasn't about his policies per se. It was just like just the energy of turning things over. We needed to go into chaos, which I guess is where we are. So it's all working out. But people were so attached to that, they attached to their own negative feelings about him. They were just completely unwilling to hear what I had to say, which to me was incredibly rational.
Yeah, they're conditioned feelings about him.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you've made a post about this. So I want to ask you, what is the Matrix? Everyone seems to want to escape from the Matrix and
Yeah.
use the Matrix as context to describe, things that are happening right now. Can you speak to that?
Well, I guess it's any ideas or beliefs that we are attached to that keep us from being free.
Mm-hmm.
It's inside our own mind. That's where the Matrix lives, and it's our unconscious, generally, belief systems, which inform our identity, which is really about our ego, that keeps us, trapped in a paradigm and in a pattern. And so, the only way to get free of the Matrix is to be with God, and to be in a space of love. Now, that's not something I think that you can walk around with 24/7, but I think you want to be in connection to and have access to that as much as possible. But it's bitterness, it's anger, it's frustration, it's trying to figure things out. It's trying to make sense of everything. It's control. All of that to me is the Matrix. It's our fear. It's our shame. It's our unresolved pain. And the powers that be understand that, and they play off that. You can control people through their fear. It's very, very easy to control and manipulate people through fear. And you can blame them for doing it. Or you can take responsibility for the way that you are enabling that manipulation to happen. It's on you, right? Yeah. It's like if you can be manipulated, then I guess you must want to be manipulated. If you're getting betrayed, then some part of you is betraying yourself. It always comes back to you. In any place where you're in judgment or blame, you are in the Matrix. So it's complete and utter self-responsibility for your own sovereignty and freedom. That's how you get out of the Matrix.
Yeah. It's easy to want to blame they, them, everyone out there, and instead of really looking in the mirror and going, what role am I playing in this? It's like the master-slave dynamic. There would be no masters if we didn't make ourselves slaves to some degree.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's enticing. And it's not like those arguments aren't true. It's like, well, no, but the media does this and the elites and they're doing this and we're, it's all lies. It's like, yeah. But, if you're giving your attention to that, you're feeding into it in some way. And this is always the way it's been. It's never going to change, or maybe it will. But, and can you just be with all of it? Can I accept the madness that lives in the world, and the cruelty and the distortion and the pain and the suffering, and understand that is also inside me? I mean, there's nothing that's happening, nothing that Hamas did or anybody has done throughout history that's horrific and horrible. And people would say what the Jews are doing now that is not also in me, that I could have done that. Right. And that to me is the humility that, that's what I'm trying to teach people. Can you know yourself there?
Yeah.
Are you willing to know yourself there? It's like,
just pay attention. I don't know. I don't know if it's from my acting days or just this is how I came into this world or my imagination, but I think of some fucked up shit that goes on in my mind. Like if someone wrongs me, there's a thought, there's a pattern that comes in and it's like, oh, Yerasimos. Okay. And I'm just like, that's interesting. Let me let that just kind of simmer a bit, get to know it, see how it feels in my body. I don't act on it. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But you have to know. And that's why I think I less start looking out in the world and oh, these evil people, everybody's evil. I'm in touch with the parts of me that can do evil things.
Of course.
So that's the real deep inner work that I think needs to be done. And it's on an individual level. Everyone thinks someone else is going to save them or a whole group of people are going to come together and change the world. It's change yourself. I know it's
right.
Cliche, but change yourself, do your work. There's a universe that lives within you. Get to know it. Put your attention inwards. Everyone just wants to keep getting distracted with all the things that are happening outside of themselves. And it's most of the shit they have no control over.
You have no control over it.
And yet, you're standing on a 2 foot by 2 foot real estate, like put the focus there first and foremost.
Yeah.
That's our message.
And you can
Good
control
message.
you can control letting that trigger be your teacher, you know?
That's right.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean, I don't think that doesn't mean like stick your head in the sand 100% and like have no clue what's happening and live in love and light land and bypass everything. Like feel your shit. But I just think there needs to be a little bit more balance there. And you know, more people are becoming more open to it. That's the truth. People are seeing veils being lifted. They're like, this world isn't what I thought it was. Is there more to life? You know, I want to have healthy relationships. I want to do work that inspires me and that brings depth into the world. And, you know, it's nice to see, but we definitely, there's a lot of work to be done.
Well, it's interesting that so many people are being called to it. Like you guys are being called to it. I was called to it. And I wonder why. You know, it feels like there's some evolutionary force that that is causing this to happen, to know that we are upgrading our consciousness. We are going through something, and that we need teachers and guides and people doing the work right now. Because I think that, I mean, it's already happening for me, but I think in the next 5-10 years, therapists are going to be very busy. So I think that all the modalities that are going on, there's a reason that it's happening right now. It's not just a fad. It's there to serve something that I think is happening, and something that's going to continue to happen.
Yeah,
and it's really cool too to see more and more people getting into somatic work and just understanding the importance of it. Not just like, hey, let me just sit on the couch and just regurgitate like the shit that's happened to me 24/7 over and over and over again weekly. And like, let's really get into the meat of it. Like, let's feel feelings. Let's know what's happening on a sensation level in my body. And it's kind of exciting.
Well, it's amazing because when I discovered this work back in, I mean, it was 2001. You know, there wasn't Instagram, you know, and now, that's why, you know, I made this documentary about this work in like 2008, and put it out there. And, you know, a lot of people watched it, but it was still very weird for people. And I would talk about it, and they're just like, what are you doing? But now it's everywhere. Like, it's amazing to me. You know, you just go on Instagram, you hear people talking about this, you know, the way they're articulating these concepts in such a beautiful way. So it's hit the mainstream, or a certain level of the mainstream. And that's amazing to me, because 20 years ago, 15 years ago, nobody was talking about this stuff. Nobody understood it. And now it's everywhere. So something's happening, and it's great. It's exciting.
Yeah. The education levels are being elevated to just in understanding the physiology of the nervous system. Like,
right.
You know, everyone now talks about fight, flight, freeze, you know, like 15, 20 years ago, I don't think that was the case.
Well, it's brand new, this whole nervous system arena. Polyvagal theory, it's literally like a second old.
It's true. All of this is new. We're you know, at the beginning of understanding how this all works.
It's fun. It's so exciting to me, at least.
Yeah, me too. I love it.
Yeah. And like in many ways, this was something that was kicked off by Wilhelm Reich, you know?
That's right. Yeah. He was the original gangster.
He was.
He was a wild man, but he was right about a lot of things.
Yeah. And he was needed.
Yeah. Quite a guy. He's the forefather of the core energetics work. You know, went from Reich to Alexander Lowen to John Parakas, who founded core energetics. So this is the direct lineage right back to Reich. And a lot of the books that we had to read in our studies were books by Wilhelm Reich.
Yeah. Do you do just real quickly, your groups do you do co-ed, both, just men, like
both? Yeah.
Okay.
I do co-ed and men's groups.
Cool.
Yeah, they're a little different. Obviously, men getting together, they talk less. Women, I had to learn that women need a little more talk. They process more through talking, and the men just kind of want to get to it, which is good. So, but I love working with both. I love the polarity in the groups is really interesting, especially now. There's so much pain around interpersonal relationships between men and women. So like our mixed groups is a real opportunity to go deep into the places where men and women have really, hurt each other, and to really to reclaim that longing for the union and the connection that's there.
Awesome, man. Yeah, just a quick note on that matrix discussion we were having. Like something that I carry with me, is just like, on some level, this is like a game I entered into for my own evolutionary process, and there's no growth without pain. So it's almost like that's what allows me to accept, like, the reality is that there are powers, controlling, coercive, manipulative, psychopathic powers that exist at the same time as us having this discussion right now. But like, it's something that on some level, like, I chose. So how do I act in that regard?
Well, I think it leads right back. If you chose it, then you're responsible.
Yeah, that's right.
For your experience. And that this idea that we choose our parents, because I work with a lot of people that have a lot of trauma, and they come in here and one of the things you're trying to get them to do is feel their feelings towards their parents, maybe their anger, maybe their rage, whatever it is. I mean, ultimately trying to get them to the pain, trying to get them to acceptance, to feel the grief of what they long for and didn't get. But you've got to take them through the anger first. And if they get stuck there, which they can, because it's easy to stay stuck in the anger because it helps us avoid feeling our pain. I think that model is really useful. Well, it's like, well, what if you chose your parents? Mm-hmm. What if this is the experience that you chose to have? And once you give them that, then it's like, well, now you're choosing to stay stuck in this anger. This is what you wanted. This is what you asked for. And I think I think that is is that true? I don't fucking know. I don't know why we're here. Yeah. But who cares? Like, that's, I think, an incredibly useful and empowering way to look at it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Got to be tough for some people.
Oh, for sure.
Especially like
it can be very gaslighting for some people as well,
Sure. Yeah. Well, they have to have permission to. You don't lead with that.
No,
certainly.
Welcome. Just so you know, you chose your parents.
Yeah. Why did you choose to get molested as a child? That's obviously not. No, people have a right to their feelings, and they should express their feelings. It's only when they become attached, right? When they're really stuck there and they're suffering there because of it. Then, but obviously that is a tough pill for people to swallow. And
sometimes you got to swallow the pill.
Life is fucking brutal.
Yeah, man. It is.
It is what it is, and we don't want to feel that. We don't want to face it. We're out. Like, it just even went on with Hamas. Like, can you believe that? I'm like, yeah, that shit's happening all the time. That's not. It's horrific, but that's what happens in war. This is not extraordinary, and it's tragic. It's scary. But it's not extraordinary. It's normal, unfortunately.
Let me ask you this question. How did your acting community, colleagues, agents respond from you walking away from this incredible career in their eyes that you had curated?
Well, in some way, it's their job to be supportive of me, but I think they were a little confused. My manager was certainly confused and upset. Yeah. And couldn't understand why I would, waste, all the capital that I'd built up to walk away and do something else. But I was passionate about it. Yeah. And they could feel that. Mm-hmm. And it's the same passion, irrational passion, perhaps, that got me to become an actor. It was the same feeling that was getting me to do this therapy. So I was just following my life. And so I had a lot of support. And one of the interesting things that happened to me, though, was after I'd been out of the game for a couple years, I went to this party. It was like an Emmy party. And there was a lot of celebrities there and a lot of people that I knew. And I started talking to them. Hey, man, where you been? And I said, I'm out. I took a turn. I'm doing something different now. And I was worried that the response was going to be, at least unconsciously or in their minds, they were thinking, oh, he couldn't hack it. But the response I got was, you got out?
Wow.
Good for you, man. And that's really surprised me. And by the way, I got that response from some people who extraordinarily successful, Oscar, Emmy winning people who admired me for getting out of the game. And that blew me away and it changed my whole perspective on it. So I think there's a lot of people that are there that are trapped, and it's not just in Hollywood; it's all these kind of places, and they want out, but they don't know how. So I was an inspiration for them.
Yeah, it's like the golden handcuffs. You get to a certain level of a career, and you've built an identity around it, and then you realize maybe this isn't what you want, or doesn't feed your soul in the same way, and it's just hard for people to just be like, I'm just going to blow it all up and just say no to all the money and the success and the esteem that I get from my peers and go on this and continue on my hero's journey on this, lonely path at times.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's also, I was a little famous, but if you're really famous, you can't get out of it. There's no way out. You're famous for life. And it limits your options. There's just you can't just go become a therapist or take up some other profession because just be a regular person. That doesn't exist for you anymore. Fortunately for me, my level of fame, it's still there, but people coming to my workshops because, they were fans of mine or which is fine. But I thought at first when I got into it, that it was going to be helpful to me. It's like, oh, I got a little name recognition. So that'll help, get the word out. But I think it's been the opposite. People don't trust that I'm know what I'm doing because I was, an actor.
An actor.
Yeah. Which is fair enough. I probably would have thought that as well. Like he's some failed actor turned life coach. What is he, a life coach now? And then I was like, oh, fuck, I got to deal with that perception.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't know. Much respect though, dude. Much respect, like making that choice and that decision and just answering that inner call, because again, many people wouldn't. They just keep grinding and what's the next thing? What's the next TV show I can be on? And you realize deep down, like, hey, there's something else I want to feel into and experience. Like this chapter was great. Okay, let's turn the page.
But it's all, I appreciate that. And people say that to me all the time. Like, that must have took courage. Good for you. But it was almost like, if you're married to somebody or you're with somebody and your dick doesn't get hard from them anymore. And you're kind of out of love. And then you leave the relationship. I had nothing.
I get it.
And so I was just following. This is what I teach, and I don't say this is right for everybody, but like I said, I made that decision a long time ago. I was going to follow my intuition and, almost my own version of Michael Singer's surrender experiment, where he was going to say yes to whatever came into his life. And even if he didn't prefer it, like he was going to set aside his preferences and just follow wherever life took him. And it's just an incredible story. And I had that version of that. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to essentially do what I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow my excitement over and over and over again and not worry about money, not worry about where I live, not worry about anything other than that. I'm going to make that my God and trust.
Yeah. Preaching to the choir, man, this is a story of my life. Like, I was just like, this doesn't feel right. Let's do this. Let's quit this job. Let's travel around the world. Let's, go here. And then the path leads you, there's one thing that leads to the next thing. Everything feeds off of everything. I don't know. It was cool. Do you know human design at all? Have you heard of human design?
I do. Yeah. I've had a human design reading.
Cool. That's the work that I've done for like a decade, I'm really into it. So I keep thinking about following your excitement and bliss. I wonder if you're a generator or a manifesting generator,
I'm a manifesting generator. I forget your
profile.
Yeah. I'm meant to, what is the sacral response? It's just
so you're pure sacral, not emotional. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just like, like I'm just supposed to be yes or no. And so my girlfriend now, I like trained her to ask me, it's like, hey, do you want to, no, you have to ask me, do you want to do this? No, I don't actually want to do it. And now she's totally fine. She's just like, do you want to can you rub my feet? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
She just laughs. I'm like, what am I supposed to do, baby? Go against my sacral?
Yeah. No, totally. I tell people that all the time. Like, if you're with a partner that's a generator and there's pure sacral, like, ask them these like yes or no questions. It really helps. So yeah, it's cool. I was just wondering, and then when you said some phrases, I was like, it aligns. And another thing with being in the manifesting generator, you're really carving your own path. And there are also people call it like the multi-passionate too, where it's like once you're done with something and you can honor that, you just go to the next thing. You don't know where it's gonna take you, and I think it's part of the journey. So
I think that's why he was able to walk away.
Yeah,
right. I think that's true. No, it helped me a lot. The reading that I got. I work with this woman Angela and we do workshops together, and we're very close. And she's deep into it, so I get a lot from her. But yeah, the reading I got from this dude Alok, this Spanish guy, Alaconda Diaz, I think his name is. I guess he's an old school dude, but yeah, I go back to that often.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about myself from that reading.
Cool.
It's crazy. That whole story is crazy.
About how
it came about.
Oh yeah, it's wild. This is where it's like I'm a skeptical person, but then at the same time, like I'm really open. And then you see the proof is in the pudding. This has lasted 30 something, 1987. So almost 40 years, and it's impacting people's lives. You're like, fuck it. I don't know. A voice came to a dude, and let's see.
Just where did this, how could one person conceive that? They couldn't. It had to come through from some other source, dimension, whatever. I mean, we don't know anything.
I mean, this harkens back to our initial discussion about the rational and the irrational.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. It's so
cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, these are cool tools, to like just add a little bit more of a, an understanding of yourself, and something we say often, like stake your flag in the ground even more. It's like you just get affirmed. You're
right.
Like, oh, this lands. This really resonates, and you just kind of own yourself even more.
Yeah. How did you two come together?
Well, we came together in early 2021. My wife and I were interviewed on the Unslaved podcast with Michael Tazarian and David Whitehead, talking about awakening somatic intelligence. Because my wife got her PhD in depth psychology with an emphasis in somatic studies at Pacifica Graduate Institute. And so we were into this work, body work, blah, 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 And so we were talking about that March 2020, and then May 2020, we went back on. And then Joel's a fan of Michael's work. He's gone through his mystery school. And he saw our episode, and talking about things like even we're talking about here, just the importance.
It was the body as the shadow. That's what really drew me.
Right.
Concept of the body as the shadow.
Yeah. And then he hit me up on Instagram, and I was like, "Who's this dude?" Like, he seemed really involved with like the freedom community in Sydney, and he's a conscious hip hop artist and into a lot of cool stuff. And we hit it off from day one, and we had a few exchanges on Instagram, and then we got on Zoom just to meet each other. And then a week later, we got on Zoom and we pressed record, and we're like, let's, because we both wanted to start a podcast. We pressed record and talked about this episode 1. What does it mean to walk an authentic path? And we shared our stories, and then we did a part 2, and then we're like, let's have guests on. And here we are 144 episodes later, and we've grown a lot over the last, I guess, 2.5 years. And it's been a gift. I mean, we grew, and from that, we grew our group coaching program and our membership community. And, we're just doing our thing and want to inspire people to really step into the person they were born to be. This is where human design comes into it, and other things that we're into. And just integrating things that we've learned that have inspired us, helping people deprogram from disempowering philosophies and fill them up with more empowering philosophies. Again, the stuff we're talking about today. And so that's our journey. We're bros, business partners. Like, I love, he got the utmost respect for Joel and what he does and what he stands for. So here we are.
That's a great story. Well, yeah, no, you guys have a great vibe, and very authentic. I feel your good intentions. So it's nice. I'm glad you guys are out there doing the work that you're doing, adding to this whole thing.
I mean, we're both pure generators, straight generators. And, for us, it's just like, does this feel good? Does it not feel good?
Right.
It kept feeling good. So we keep going.
Yeah. Emotional authorities though. So we still have to filter it through and maybe wait a little bit and feel into things and get to some emotional clarity. Even though we have the sacral, we have the emotional authority.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like giving ourselves times. Like the sacral has more knowing truth in the now.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional authority, which is about 50% of the population, they need to give themselves times before making important decisions.
Right. Every problem I have in my life is betraying myself, not trusting my sacral response, or not listening to it, or not even being aware of it. So that's my whole practice now. It's like I have to slow myself down. What am I actually and not worry about the quote unquote rationality. What's the right decision? Like making to-do lists of, well, what are the pros? What are the cons? Whatever, it's like, no, just gut.
Yeah. And like you could do that, but ultimately the ultimate arbiter is much more intuitive. And obviously each person, depending on their authority, has a specific intuition, sacral, feeling clarity, and to honor that. I mean, my wife now, she knows, like if she has plans for something and maybe I was going to be a part of it, but in the moment or like the day before, I'm like, I'm not really feeling like going. She's not like, but you said you were going to come, or we made plans. Like she just honors me for that. And I'm like, no, I'm going to stay home. Okay, cool. I'll see you later.
That's great. Well, life becomes really easy when it's just a yes or a no.
Yeah.
Life becomes easy when we honor each other as unique individuals.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
It's like no one's built the same. No one's designed the same. And if we can just stop projecting that, someone else has to act, think, behave, choose, decide like us.
Right.
And realize that, it's it, man. And this is like a individualism versus collectivism 101, like we're all individuals.
Yeah. We're all individuals. Sovereign.
Yeah, that's it. David, who's the most famous person's contact you have in your phone right now?
Well, probably Andrew Tate.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
I'm trying to think. Who else do I got? I got a few others.
Second most.
I guess Matthew Modine.
Oh, nice. Classic.
I work with him. He's on Stranger Things. Full Metal Jacket.
Why am I forgetting the movie that when he was the wrestler?
Vision Quest.
Yeah, Vision Quest. My wrestling coach played that before like one of our really big meets, like the final scene.
Yeah. That dude is awesome. I mean, I did a TV series with him. That guy is phenomenal. I mean, he was a huge star back in the day. Every movie star I've ever worked with, I say this to people, the power that they have is just, it's unbelievable. Like there's some aura. They're just, they're gifted. There's something, but Modine, he just fucking blew me away.
There's a presence.
It's something they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, really appreciate you, sharing some time with us and having this dialogue. Yeah, it was great. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. It's good to talk to you guys. And thanks for having me on.
For sure, man. Where's the best place to direct our audience in terms of getting in contact with you, or work with you or follow you?
Well, just my website, it's all there, davidsutcliffe.com, and you can find all my social media stuff there and information about my workshops and coaching and different things that I'm doing. But cool. davidsutcliffe.com.
Awesome, man. And when this comes out, you're going to send it to Andrew Tate and Matthew Modine, or?
Hilarious.
If I'm going to reach out to Tate, this might be a good one. Yeah, this is a good one.
Sick. Cool. David, it's been an honor, man, for real. I've loved this. Everyone else, thanks for listening. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Later.
Smoking mirrors, I'm seeing through the illusion. Waking up in a time, they think you're in a delusion. Somebody set the alarms, cause they be too busy snoozing. I'm in a DeLorean. Fast forward and never...